You might start with a shot of fog rolling over a dense forest at twilight, the wind whispering through the trees, shadows stretching unnaturally long. The narration begins softly, almost a whisper, drawing the viewer in. America's national parks are places of breathtaking beauty where sunlight filters through ancient trees and mountains rise like silent guardians. But when the sun sets and darkness falls, some of these parks seem to change. The air grows colder, the shadows move differently, and those who wander too far sometimes don't return the same. Or at all. The camera pans to abandoned trails, a flicker of movement in the corner of the frame, and the faint sound of distant footsteps. This is where our journey begins, stepping into the unknown corners of nature where the natural and supernatural collide. As we enter Yosemite, the valley stretches before us, majestic cliffs illuminated by the ghostly light of the moon. Campfires burn low, casting trembling shadows across silent cabins and empty trails. Hikers have reported fleeting figures standing on cliff edges, vanishing when approached. Some claim to hear whispered warnings carried by the wind, voices echoing in the quiet canyon. Ranger accounts tell of sudden chills, footsteps in places no one has walked, and objects that move without explanation. It is said that the spirits of the valley, perhaps guardians of the land or echoes of those who met tragedy in the mountains, still wander among the pines and granite walls. As the camera glides through misty cliffs, the faint outline of a figure appears in the fog, only to dissolve into nothingness, leaving viewers with the unsettling feeling that Yosemite's beauty hides something far more sinister. Moving into the Smoky Mountains, the fog thickens, curling around ancient oaks and tangled undergrowth. Trails that seem clear in daylight twist into confusion, as if the forest itself is alive and shifting. Stories of hikers disappearing without a trace are whispered from ranger to visitor, each tale more chilling than the last. Some who vanish return, pale and silent, claiming only to remember glimpses of glowing eyes watching them through the fog. Lights are seen dancing between the trees, moving against the wind as if the forest itself has a pulse. Ranger testimonies speak of sudden screams that echo across valleys yet vanish without origin, and of campgrounds that seem filled with presence even when abandoned. The visuals darken, shadows deepen, and the camera drifts past hollowed trunks and abandoned paths, hinting at the unexplainable forces that lurk just beyond human sight. In the vast emptiness of Death Valley, the landscape changes from forested mystery to stark desert desolation. The heat during the day gives way to a chilling cold at night, and the sand and rock seem almost alive under the moonlight. Visitors have reported strange markings appearing overnight, intricate drawings in the sand and etched into rock formations, the origin unknown. Some believe they are warnings from spirits long dead or messages from forces unseen. Ghost towns, long abandoned, whisper the echoes of miners and settlers who met untimely ends. Rangers recount seeing fleeting shadows dart across dunes, hearing voices carried on the wind that dissolve as quickly as they appear. The camera pans over deserted structures, the skeletal remains of buildings silhouetted against a crimson sunset, casting long, eerie shadows. The emptiness of the desert amplifies every sound, every movement, every possibility that something unseen watches, waits, or even lures the unwary. Across all these haunted parks, the testimonies of those who patrol the land reveal a pattern. Rangers speak of objects displaced without reason, footsteps following them in empty trails and cold spots that materialize for no explanation. Some describe an almost magnetic pull toward certain locations, a feeling of being drawn into the darkness, of being observed. Native legends and the history of tragic events give credence to some of these experiences, while others defy all rational explanation. Maps and trails, so familiar by day, take on new, frightening dimensions at night, transforming the known into something unknowable. Shadows lengthen and twist, the soundscape changes, and the very ground seems to hold memories of the past. The forests of America's national parks hold secrets that even seasoned hikers hesitate to whisper aloud. Among the shadows of towering pines and the dense undergrowth of the Smoky Mountains, many have reported not just fleeting apparitions, but the unmistakable sensation of being followed. Some speak of entire nights spent on familiar trails that somehow loop back to the same spot, as if the forest itself refuses to let them leave. Campers recount waking to the sound of soft singing, melodic yet chilling, echoing through the trees with no visible source. The melody is often described as hauntingly familiar, like a lullaby sung by someone long dead, and it grows louder if one attempts to investigate, compelling them to stay put in fear or curiosity. Rangers warn that certain trails are particularly dangerous at night. Even experienced guides have admitted that compasses seem to fail inexplicably in these regions, shadows behave unnaturally, and electronic equipment sometimes malfunctions. The phenomenon of lost hiker syndrome seems more than a series of coincidences. People vanish only to reappear hours or days later, often with vague recollections of ghostly figures leading them along twisted paths that defy logic. The camera would glide through mist-laden trails, focusing on gnarled roots that seem to reach toward unseen travelers, while distant, flickering lights move through the fog as if marking invisible corridors. Each sound rustling leaves, snapping twigs, distant calls would be amplified subtly, making viewers feel as though they are wandering those trails themselves, isolated and watched by something not of this world. Yosemite's cliffs and valleys have their own catalog of chilling experiences, where the very rocks seem to absorb centuries of grief and fear. Visitors often recount moments when the sunlight fades in spots unexpectedly, even during midday, replaced by an unnatural shadow that seems to breathe and move independently. Campgrounds report cold pockets of air appearing suddenly, causing shivers down spines even in summer. A few longtime rangers have admitted to seeing figures perched on cliff edges, their shapes indistinct yet undeniably human, often vanishing the instant one dares approach. Hikers tell of hearing distant conversations, whispers about events that occurred long before their time, or the rustle of clothing in an empty clearing. These accounts are punctuated by historical tragedies, rockslides, lost explorers, and unexplained deaths whose echoes are said to linger in the valleys. Local lore often speaks of spirits that guard the land, appearing to those who might disrespect its sacred history or wander too far from safety. Visuals of these stories could include shadowy silhouettes standing on granite ledges as fog rolls over them, sunlight refracting through mist to create spectral shapes, and slow pan shots over abandoned campsites where personal items seem untouched yet oddly displaced, enhancing the feeling that unseen forces linger just beyond view. Death Valley's desert expanse transforms the notion of haunting into something vast and almost cosmic. At night, temperatures drop drastically, and the barren landscape becomes a canvas for optical illusions that can trick even the most rational mind. Visitors have spoken of mysterious lights hovering over sand dunes, forming geometric patterns before darting off into the night sky. Some of these lights appear to follow those who dare to traverse the desert after dark, vanishing when approached, leaving no footprints or disturbances in the sand. Ranger reports suggest that these phenomena are not mere hallucinations, as multiple people often see the same lights at the same time. Abandoned mining towns offer another layer of terror, creaking floorboards, sudden gusts of wind that sound like exhaled breaths, and the feeling of unseen eyes watching every move. Artists and historians have long debated the origin of strange markings appearing overnight, etched in ways that defy the hardness of the desert rock. Some propose they are remnants of past visitors, while others whisper that they are warnings, messages left by spirits trapped between worlds. The camera could glide across jagged rock formations under a scarlet sunset, zoom in on faintly glowing sand patterns, and pan slowly through deserted streets of ghost towns, where windows reflect moonlight in a way that hints at the presence of something unseen, creating a tension that is both beautiful and horrifying. Across these parks, a recurring theme emerges. The boundary between nature and the supernatural is far thinner than anyone realizes. Rangers' accounts consistently describe moments where ordinary logic fails. Radios chatter with static that seems to form words, compasses spin without reason, and sudden mists appear to form shapes before dispersing. Visitors have described a sensation of being watched for hours even when no one is physically present, and cameras often capture anomalies, invisible to the naked eye blurs of movement or lights that vanish as soon as attention is directed toward them. In some cases, wildlife behavior adds to the eerie atmosphere. Animals avoid certain areas entirely, or act aggressively without provocation, as if aware of unseen forces. This cumulative effect creates a living, breathing environment of mystery, where every leaf, rock, and shadow could conceal a story waiting to unfold. The video visuals could reflect this by showing slow motion sequences of trees swaying, shadows shifting in unnatural patterns, and isolated trails stretching into darkness, accompanied by subtle ambient sounds, whispers, distant footsteps, and the soft hum of the wind, which together immerse viewers into an environment where every second is charged with the possibility of something inexplicable. As the night deepens, we reflect on the fragile line between nature's beauty and its hidden darkness. America's national parks are not just havens of wildlife and adventure, they are vessels of memory, mystery, and sometimes horror. Perhaps the spirits linger to remind us that even in the most peaceful places, there is a world we do not fully understand. The wind rustles, trees creak, and the faintest echo of a footstep passes by, leaving the viewer with a shiver and a question that lingers long after the video ends. The next time you wander through the forest, climb the cliffs, or walk across the desert, are you truly alone? The screen fades to black, only the whisper of wind remains, and a final shot of empty trails under the silver light of the moon leaves viewers unsettled yet mesmerized.